There was a time when the NBA felt bigger than life. Back in the 80s and 90s, the league meant something. Every game felt important. Every rivalry felt real. You had teams that hated each other, players who wanted to prove they were the best, and fans who never missed a game. This was the era of packed arenas, hard fouls, and players who stayed with one team long enough for it to mean something. Kids wore the jerseys, families watched the games together, and the finals felt like a national event. But somewhere along the line, something changed. In the 2020s, TV ratings dropped, fans stopped watching full games, and people started saying the same thing over and over. The NBA just isn't the same anymore. The rivalries feel fake, the regular season feels pointless, and players switch teams every year. Defense barely exists, and half the time the biggest stars aren't even playing. But the league didn't collapse overnight. It slowly lost what made it special, and now more fans than ever are asking the same question: what happened to the NBA? This is the story of how the NBA went from must-watch television to background noise, and why a lot of fans believe the NBA sucks now. Before the NBA was a global business, it was just a small league trying to survive. Back in the 1940s, pro basketball wasn't even close to America's biggest sport. Baseball ruled everything, football was growing fast, and basketball was an afterthought. In 1946, a group of arena owners started a league called the Basketball Association of America. The idea was simply to fill empty arenas on nights when hockey teams weren't playing. Most people didn't care. Games were played in half-empty buildings, and players rode buses instead of planes. Some teams barely lasted a few seasons before folding. Then, in 1949, the BAA merged with another league called the National Basketball League. That merger created what we know now as the NBA. But even then, the NBA was still struggling to matter. The game itself looked nothing like today. Teams held the ball for minutes at a time, scores were low, and some games ended with teams scoring under 60 points. Fans got bored watching players stall the clock instead of actually playing basketball. At one point, people thought pro basketball might fail completely. Then everything changed in 1954. The NBA introduced the 24-second shot clock, forcing teams to shoot instead of stalling, and suddenly the game had pace. More shots, more scoring, and more excitement. For the first time, basketball became fun to watch. The league finally had a foundation. But what really kept the NBA alive during that dark period was the players. Stars started to appear. The first real superstar was George Mikan. Mikan dominated the late 1940s and early 50s. He played for the Minneapolis Lakers and was almost unstoppable near the basket. He helped prove pro basketball could actually draw crowds. The league even changed rules because of him, widening the lane just to slow him down. But after Mikan retired, the NBA needed new stars to survive. And that's when the league found the players who really built the foundation. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, three names stood above everyone else: Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and Jerry West. Bill Russell turned the Boston Celtics into a dynasty. His teams played defense like nobody else. They won championship after championship, and Russell became the face of winning. The Celtics felt unstoppable, and fans started paying attention. Wilt Chamberlain was the opposite. Wilt was bigger, stronger, and more dominant than anyone the league had ever seen. He scored in ways nobody thought were possible. In 1962, Wilt scored 100 points in a single game, a record that still stands today. People came just to see what Wilt would do next, but unfortunately, Wilt wasn't the winner that Bill Russell was. Then there was Jerry West. West brought skill and consistency. He became the face of the Los Angeles Lakers and one of the most respected players in the league. He played hard every night and made big moments feel bigger. These players gave the NBA something it never had before: legends. For the first time, fans had reasons to care about teams and players. But there was still one big problem. Most people in America still weren't watching, because if you couldn't go to the arena, you usually couldn't see the game at all. That started to change in the early 1960s. The NBA signed its first real national television deal with ABC in 1964. Before that, games only appeared on local stations once in a while. There was no consistent national coverage. The ABC deal changed everything. Now people across the country could watch NBA games from their living rooms. It wasn't huge money by today's standards, but it made the league feel real. the NBA finally had national exposure. Fans could see Russell versus Wilt, Celtics versus Lakers, and stars became famous outside their cities. The league was still small, still struggling compared to baseball and football, but for the first time, the NBA wasn't just surviving anymore, it was growing, and the next era would push the league even further right before everything almost fell apart again. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, the NBA was finally stable, but it still had a problem. It wasn't exciting enough. The games were slower, the league felt old, and a lot of teams struggled to draw fans. TV ratings weren't strong, and the NBA still sat behind football and baseball in popularity. Then a new league showed up, the ABA, the American Basketball Association, and almost overnight, the ABA made the NBA look boring. The ABA played a different style, faster pace, more scoring, more flash, and more personality. They introduced things that felt new and exciting. They had the red, white, and blue basketball, and they had the slam dunk contest. And most importantly, they had the three-point line years before the NBA did. Players took deep shots, they played loose, and games felt unpredictable. The ABA felt like fun, while the NBA felt serious. The ABA had players with style and swagger, big afros, bright uniforms, and showmanship. Guys played like they wanted to entertain people. Meanwhile, the NBA still looked like an old school league that hadn't caught up with the times. A lot of younger fans thought the ABA was just cooler, and the talent was real too. Julius Erving, aka Dr. J, became the face of the ABA. He played above the rim when almost nobody else did. His dunks looked unreal at the time, and fans packed arenas just to see him fly. The ABA started stealing players from the NBA by offering bigger contracts. Some NBA teams were losing talent they couldn't afford to keep. For a while, it looked like the ABA might actually beat the NBA. But even during all of this, the NBA had a star that was single-handedly keeping the league above water: Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem was the NBA's biggest star of the 1970s. When he entered the league in 1969, he dominated right away. He was unstoppable in the paint. His skyhook couldn't be blocked, and teams had no answer for him. He won a championship in 1971, followed by multiple MVP awards. He put up great numbers year after year. Kareem carried the league at a time when the NBA didn't have many true superstars left from the 60s. Wilt was aging, and Bill Russell had retired. The new generation hadn't fully arrived yet, so the NBA leaned heavily on Kareem. But even with Kareem, the league still struggled. Attendance dropped in some cities, and some playoff games aired on tape delay late at night because networks didn't think they were worth showing live. The NBA had talent, but it didn't have energy. The ABA had energy, and the NBA knew it. By the mid-1970s, both leagues were losing money fighting each other. They couldn't keep competing forever. So in 1976, the ABA and NBA merged. 4 ABA teams joined the NBA, and the ABA disappeared. But the NBA kept the things that worked. The three-point line would come later, and the dunk contest would come later. The style would come later, and the ABA died. But its influence stayed. And right after the merger, something happened that changed everything. 2 players would arrive that would save the NBA when it was closer to failure than most people realize: Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Before they even reached the NBA, people already knew their names. In 1979, Magic Johnson's Michigan State team played Larry Bird's Indiana State team in the NCAA championship game. It became the most watched college basketball game ever at the time. People picked sides immediately. Magic was flashy, smiling, fast, and had a Showtime style. Bird was quiet, tough, and a cold-blooded shooter. City versus small town. Flash versus grit. And fans were hooked before they even became pros. When they entered the NBA in 1979, they landed in the perfect places. Magic joined the Los Angeles Lakers, while Bird joined the Boston Celtics. And just like that, the league had a rivalry again. Celtics versus Lakers became must-watch basketball. Not just once a year. Every season felt like it was building towards another showdown. Before Bird arrived, the Celtics were struggling to draw fans. Boston Garden had empty seats. The team looked average. Then Bird showed up and everything flipped fast. The Celtics went from 29 wins to 61 wins in Bird's rookie season. Fans came back and the team became tough again. Bird played like every game mattered. He dove for loose balls, he trash talked, and hit big shots. Boston felt revived. On the other hand, Magic transformed the Lakers into the most entertaining team in sports. They called it the Showtime Lakers. Fast breaks, no-look passes, and high-scoring games. Magic was 6'9", playing the point guard, which nobody had ever seen before. He could run the offense, rebound, and play every position on the court. As a rookie, he led the Lakers to the 1980 NBA championship. In Game 6 of the finals, Magic even played center when Kareem got hurt and scored 42 points. That moment made him a superstar instantly. Magic and Bird did something the NBA desperately needed. They made people care. Every time they played each other, it felt like an event. The 1984 finals between the Celtics and Lakers became one of the biggest basketball series ever. The country picked sides. People argued about who was better, Bird or Magic, Celtics or Lakers. Basketball was exciting again and reaching new heights. Once Magic and Bird took over the league, TV numbers improved, networks started showing games in better time slots, and the finals became real national events. More kids started watching, and more people started playing basketball. The NBA finally had stars who connected with fans across the country, not just in one city, everywhere. Magic and Bird didn't just save the league, they rebuilt it. They made the NBA feel big. They gave the league identity again, and they turned the Celtics vs. Lakers into the biggest rivalry in sports. And most importantly, they made the NBA cool. Without Magic and Bird, the NBA might have stayed a small league with weak ratings and limited attention. Instead, they set the stage for the next superstar, the player who would take the NBA higher than it had ever been before, and turn the league into a global phenomenon, Michael Jordan. When Michael Jordan was drafted by the Chicago Bulls in 1984, the Bulls weren't important. Chicago wasn't a basketball city yet. The team had losing seasons and didn't get much attention at all. Jordan changed that almost immediately. From his rookie season, he looked different than everyone else. He jumped higher, moved faster, and finished plays in ways nobody had seen before. Fans weren't just watching games, they were watching Jordan. He scored constantly, he attacked the basket, he played defense, and he played every game like it mattered. Even when the Bulls weren't winning yet, Jordan was becoming the biggest attraction in the league. People started buying tickets just to see him play. Road arenas filled up whenever the Bulls came to town. Jordan wasn't just a star, he was bigger than the entire program. Jordan changed how basketball looked. Before Jordan, most stars were big men like Kareem or centers who played near the basket. Jordan was a guard who played in the air. Dunks became a huge part of the sport, and highlights started appearing on TV every night. Kids went outside trying to copy Jordan's moves. The 1988 dunk contest made him even bigger. The free throw line dunk became one of the most famous moments in basketball and sports history. Jordan made basketball exciting in a way nobody else had before. Jordan didn't just change basketball on the court, he changed the business of basketball. When he signed with Nike, nobody expected what would happen. His first shoe, the Air Jordan 1, came out in 1985. They sold out everywhere. Kids lined up to buy them. People who didn't even watch basketball knew who Michael Jordan was because of the shoes. Air Jordans became more than just sneakers. They became a phenomenon. No athlete had ever had that kind of impact before. Jordan turned players into brands, and the NBA suddenly had a superstar who reached far beyond basketball. By the late 1980s, the NBA was getting bigger every year. TV ratings improved, merchandise sales exploded, more games were shown nationally, and more kids started playing basketball than ever before. Jordan became the face of the league. But he wasn't alone. One reason the NBA got so strong was because of the talent that came into the league during the 1980s. Some of the greatest players ever were drafted during this time. In 1984 alone, the NBA got 4 all-time greats: Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Charles Barkley, and John Stockton. Hakeem Olajuwon became one of the most skilled centers the game ever saw. He had footwork nobody else had, and he could score inside and defend at an elite level. Then came Karl Malone in 1985. Malone became one of the strongest and most consistent scorers ever. Year after year, he put up great numbers. In 1987, David Robinson entered the picture. Robinson was athletic, mobile, and dominant on defense. He gave the league another elite center at a time when big men controlled the game. Patrick Ewing had arrived in 1985. Scottie Pippen arrived in 1987. The league was stacked. Every team seemed to have at least one star player. Night after night, there were real matchups worth watching. Jordan versus Bird, Jordan versus Magic, Hakeem versus Robinson, and Malone versus Barkley. Stars faced each other constantly. The regular season mattered because the competition was real. There were no easy nights. By the end of the 1980s, the NBA had everything: superstars, rivalries, highlight plays, national TV coverage, packed arenas, and one player at the center of it all: Michael Jordan. Magic and Bird saved the NBA, but Jordan made it global. And in the 1990s, the NBA would reach its absolute peak when Jordan took over the league completely. By the late 1980s, Michael Jordan was already the biggest star in basketball. He was scoring more than anyone, winning MVP awards and putting up amazing numbers every season. But there was one problem: he couldn't win a championship. And the team standing in his way every year was the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons were the toughest team in the NBA. They weren't flashy like the Lakers, and they weren't smooth like the Celtics. They played rough, hard fouls, constant contact, and no easy baskets. They called them the Bad Boys for a reason. Players like Isaiah Thomas, Bill Laimbeer, Dennis Rodman, and Joe Dumars made life miserable for opponents. They didn't care about highlights, they cared about winning, and from the late 80s into the early 90s, they controlled the Eastern Conference. They won back-to-back championships in 1989 and 1990. To reach the finals, teams had to go through Detroit, and nobody had a harder time doing that than Michael Jordan. The Pistons made an entire defensive system just to stop Jordan. They called it the Jordan Rules, and every time Jordan drove to the basket, multiple defenders collapsed on him. If he got past one defender, another one hit him hard. They trapped him and they knocked him to the floor again and again. Jordan took punishment every game against Detroit. He got hit in midair, pushed, knocked down, and grabbed. The Pistons wanted to wear him down physically and mentally, and for years, it worked. The Bulls kept running into Detroit in the playoffs, and every time, Detroit won. In 1988, the Pistons beat the Bulls. In 1989, the Pistons beat them again on the way to a championship, and in 1990, Chicago got closer than ever. That year went to 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. Jordan played great, but Detroit still won. For a while, people started wondering if Jordan could ever win a championship. He was the best player in the league, but Detroit was still better as a team. Jordan realized talent alone wasn't enough. He had to get stronger, and the Bulls had to get tougher. After losing in 1990, Jordan went to work. He started serious strength training. He added muscle, and he got stronger so Detroit couldn't push him around anymore. He trusted his teammates more, and Phil Jackson's triangle offense started coming together. Scottie Pippen became a good second option, and by 1991, Chicago was ready. In 1991, the Bulls met Detroit again. This time felt different. Jordan looked stronger, faster, and more confident, and the Bulls didn't back down from Detroit's physical style. Instead of getting pushed around, Chicago pushed back. Game after game, the Bulls controlled the series. Jordan attacked the basket anyway. He scored, he passed, and he dominated. The Pistons couldn't stop him anymore. Chicago swept Detroit 4-0. After years of losing, Jordan finally broke through. One of the most famous moments came at the end of the series. Instead of shaking hands, many Pistons players walked off the court early. They knew their run was over. The Bulls had taken their place. After beating Detroit, the Bulls reached the NBA Finals for the first time. They faced Magic Johnson and the Los Angeles Lakers. It felt like the old era versus the new era. Magic and the Lakers had ruled the 80s. Now Jordan and the Bulls were taking over the 90s. Jordan dominated the series. One of the most famous plays came in Game 2, when Jordan switched hands in midair for a layup. That became an iconic moment, and Chicago won the series 4-1. Michael Jordan had his first championship after years of being stopped by Detroit. He finally made it to the top. After Michael Jordan won his first championship in 1991, the NBA took off fast. The league was growing every year. More fans were watching, more games were on national TV, and a lot of arenas were sold out. The NBA was becoming massive, and Michael Jordan was the center of it all. From 1991 to 1993, Jordan became bigger than any player before him. He wasn't just winning, he was dominating. Jordan won 3 championships in a row: 1991, 1992, and 1993. Every season felt like it belonged to him. Kids wore Bulls jerseys everywhere. People stayed up late just to watch Bulls games. When the Bulls were on TV, people tuned in. Jordan became the most famous athlete in the world, not just in America, everywhere. The NBA was growing internationally because of him. More countries started showing NBA games. More fans outside the United States started following the league. Jordan made basketball global. One reason the NBA felt so strong in the early 90s was because of the talent across the league. It wasn't just Jordan. Almost every team had a real star player. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were still around in the early part of the decade. Hakeem Olajuwon was dominating in Houston. David Robinson was becoming a superstar in San Antonio. Karl Malone and John Stockton were winning constantly in Utah. Patrick Ewing carried the Knicks. Charles Barkley was one of the biggest stars in the league. And Clyde Drexler was a major force in Portland. There were real matchups every night. Fans could turn on a random game and see stars playing against each other. It felt like the best players actually competed. The regular season mattered. Teams fought hard for playoff positions. The NBA kept getting stronger because new talent coming in. The early 90s drafts added even more stars. In 1991, Dikembe Mutombo entered the league. He became one of the most dominant defensive players in basketball. Larry Johnson arrived the same year and quickly became one of the most exciting young players. In 1992, Shaquille O'Neal came into the league. Shaq immediately became one of the biggest attractions in sports. He was massive, powerful, and impossible to ignore. Fans packed arenas just to watch him play. That same year, Alonzo Mourning arrived and became another dominant center. Then, in 1993, came Chris Webber. Webber was part of the new wave of young stars that showed the league's future was strong. The NBA didn't just have legends, it had rising stars ready to take over, and fans knew the league wasn't slowing down anytime soon. In 1992, something happened that pushed the NBA even higher, the Dream Team. For the first time, NBA players were allowed to play in the Olympics. The USA team included Jordan, Magic, Bird, Barkley, Malone, and many other stars. They dominated every game, but the bigger impact was what happened outside the games. The world saw NBA players up close. Fans overseas became obsessed with basketball. NBA merchandise spread everywhere. Jordan became even bigger internationally. After 1992, the NBA truly became a global league. Basketball exploded worldwide. The NBA felt alive every night. For a lot of fans, this was the best era basketball ever had, and it kept getting bigger every season. But right when the NBA looked unstoppable, everything changed. In October 1993, Michael Jordan announced he was retiring from the game of basketball. He was only 30 years old, still the best player in the world, and still winning championships. Fans couldn't believe it. The biggest star in the sport was suddenly gone. The player who drove the league's growth disappeared overnight. The NBA was still strong and still full of talent. But without Michael Jordan, something felt different, and nobody knew what would happen next. Jordan said he had lost the desire to play as a reason for retirement. He said he felt drained. Only a few months earlier, his father, James Jordan, had been murdered. That hit him hard. Jordan later said he needed a break from everything. But at the same time, there was another story floating around. During the early 90s, Jordan's gambling became a major topic in the media. It wasn't a secret. He gambled on golf, he gambled on cards, and he gambled on team flights. Stories started coming out about how much money he was betting. In 1993, reports surfaced that Jordan had written large checks to a known gambler. There were questions about whether those debts were gambling losses. Jordan admitted he liked to gamble.
Do you have a gambling problem?
No, I enjoy it. It's a hobby. If I had a problem, I'd be starving. I'd be hawking this watch. My championship rings, I would sell my house. I would do this. My wife would left me, or she'd be starving, or my kids would be starving. I do not have a problem. I enjoy gambling. Soon, whenever I walk away from this game, I think that's the only thing that people are going to say was a bad thing about Michael Jordan.
But he denied doing anything illegal. The league looked into it. The NBA said it found no evidence that Jordan bet on basketball. There was no proof that he ever bet on NBA games, and there was no proof he broke league rules. But the headlines didn't stop. Talk shows discussed it, sports media debated it, and some people believed the gambling stories were damaging the league's image. Because the retirement came so suddenly, rumors started. One of the biggest theories was that the NBA secretly suspended Jordan for gambling. The idea was that the league league didn't want to publicly suspend its biggest star, so they made it look like a retirement. People pointed to how unexpected it felt. They pointed to the timing, and they pointed to the gambling headlines earlier that year. But here's the reality. There has never been any proof that the NBA suspended Jordan. No documents, no confirmed reports, and no statements from the league backing that theory. The NBA commissioner at the time, David Stern, denied those claims strongly.
There's a perception out there, not unanimous, but a perception that's somewhat widespread, that the league is reluctant to discipline Jordan.
Is that your perception?
No, it's a perception that's out there that you
I don't
hear.
deal, there are too many times in the course of these finals when people have said, I don't say, but they say. He says, and there's a perception. The perception is that this league takes care of a variety of problems, and a good question has been raised about gambling. I have a concern, but the problem is morals have changed in the last 30 years or so. 40 states promote it. We've got casino gambling all over. And that perception that you talk about is fueled in part by people saying that players shouldn't even frequent casinos.
Jordan also denied that his retirement had anything to do with gambling. To this day, it remains just a theory. There is no solid evidence that the league forced him out. Jordan said he retired because he lost his drive and wanted to try something new. He decided to play baseball. He signed with the Chicago White Sox organization and joined their minor league system. Some people thought it was strange. Basketball's biggest star chose minor league baseball, but Jordan said it was something he always wanted to try, especially after his father had encouraged him to play baseball when he was younger. Still, the timing made people question everything. He had just won 3 straight championships. The NBA was peaking. Ratings were strong, the Bulls were on top, and then he was gone. After Jordan retired, the NBA kept going. The league still had great players. Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing, and Charles Barkley, but something was missing. Jordan had been the center of everything, and without him, the NBA felt different. TV ratings dipped, and interest slowed. The biggest star in sports was gone, and nobody knew if the league would ever feel the same again. Fans kept wondering one thing: was Jordan coming back? Then, in March 1995, it happened. Michael Jordan made a simple announcement: I'm back. Just 2 words, and the entire sports world exploded. Jordan came back in the late 1995 season wearing the number 45. The first game he played drew massive attention. Fans packed arenas again, and TV ratings jumped immediately. Players who stopped watching started watching again. It felt like the NBA had its biggest star back where he belonged. Jordan wasn't perfect right away. He looked rusty at times, but still had flashes of greatness. One of the biggest moments came when he scored 55 points at Madison Square Garden against the Knicks, dubbed as the double nickel game. That game reminded everyone who he was. Jordan was still Jordan. Even with Jordan back, the Bulls weren't fully ready. He had missed almost 2 seasons. The team chemistry wasn't the same yet, and Scottie Pippen had been struggling to carry the team while Jordan was gone. In the 1995 playoffs, the Bulls ran into the Orlando Magic. The Magic had young stars like Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway. They beat Chicago in 6 games. For the first time in years, Jordan lost in the playoffs. Some people wondered if his dominance was over, but Jordan took that loss personally. The mid-90s were stacked with great players. Everywhere you looked, there were real stars. Hakeem Olajuwon had just won back-to-back championships in 1994 and 1995. Shaquille O'Neal was becoming a dominant force. David Robinson was still elite. Karl Malone and John Stockton were always near the top of the standings. Patrick Ewing kept the Knicks competitive. Charles Barkley was still a major star. Reggie Miller was building a reputation as a clutch shooter. Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp made Seattle dangerous. Every playoff series felt serious. There were no easy paths, teams were physical, defense mattered, and games felt intense. Jordan came back the next season in full shape, and the league wasn't ready. The 1996 Chicago Bulls became one of the greatest teams ever. They won 72 games, the best record in history at the time. Jordan won MVP. The Bulls dominated almost every team they faced. They played hard defense, and they ran the triangle offense perfectly. Jordan looked unstoppable again. Chicago reached the finals and beat the Seattle Supersonics. Jordan had his 4th championship. After everything, retirement, baseball, and media conspiracies, he was back on top. The Bulls stayed dominant in 1997. Jordan kept performing at the highest level. Chicago reached the finals again and faced the Utah Jazz. Karl Malone won MVP that year, but Jordan outplayed him in the finals. One of the most famous moments came in Game 5. Jordan played with the flu and still scored 38 points. He could barely stand at times, but he kept playing. That game became legendary. Chicago won the series, and Jordan had his 5th championship. By 1998, everyone knew the Bulls might be breaking up soon. Phil Jackson's job was uncertain, Scottie Pippen was unhappy with his contract, players were aging, and it felt like the end was coming. But the Bulls still reached the finals again. Once again, they faced the Utah Jazz. The series was tight. Game 6 became one of the most famous games ever. Jordan scored late, then he stole the ball from Karl Malone, then he hit the final shot over Byron Russell. Chicago won. Jordan had 6 championships, 2 three-peats, and he finished on top. From 1991 to 1998, the NBA felt incredible. Jordan was at his peak, the league was full of stars, the playoffs felt intense, games felt physical and competitive, the finals felt important, and basketball felt important. For many fans, this was the greatest era the NBA ever had. And when Jordan retired again in 1998, it felt like the end of something bigger than just a player. It felt like the end of the NBA's golden age. When Michael Jordan retired in 1998 after winning his 6th championship, it felt like the end of an era. The Bulls dynasty was over. Phil Jackson left, Scottie Pippen was traded, Dennis Rodman was gone, and the team that defined the 90s disappeared almost overnight. And right away, the NBA felt different. For years, the league had revolved around one player. Michael Jordan was the main event. Without him, the NBA suddenly felt quieter. There was no clear face of the league anymore. No single player that everyone tuned in to watch. The games were still competitive, but something felt missing. Just when the league needed momentum, everything stopped. The NBA lockout hit in 1998. Owners and players couldn't agree on a new labor deal. Games were canceled, the season got delayed, and fans didn't know when basketball would come back. When the season finally started in 1999, it was shortened to only 50 games. The timing hurt badly. Jordan had just retired, leaving fans already unsure about the league. Then the NBA disappeared for months. Some people stopped paying attention altogether. The momentum from the 90s was gone. The style of basketball changed too. Scores dropped, games got slower, more half-court offense, and less fast breaks. Some games ended with both teams scoring under 90 points. Compared to the fast and exciting 90s Bulls era, it felt slower and harder to watch. The NBA wasn't dead, but it didn't feel electric anymore. Even though the league felt different, the talent was still incredible. The NBA was full of players who would define the next era, and a lot of the talent came from one draft, the 1996 draft class. One of the greatest drafts ever. That class brought in Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, Steve Nash, Ray Allen, Jermaine O'Neal, and more. These players would shape the league for the next decade. Allen Iverson became one of the most exciting players in the league almost immediately. He played fast, he attacked the basket, and he crossed defenders over in ways fans had never seen before. He was small compared to most players, but fearless. Iverson connected with younger fans. He brought personality and attitude. For a lot of people, Iverson was the first new star after Jordan. Kobe Bryant entered the league straight from high school. At first, he came off the bench for the Lakers, but people could see the talent right away. He had Jordan-like moves, Jordan-like footwork, and Jordan-like confidence. Fans started talking about Kobe as Jordan's successor. By the end of the 90s, Kobe was becoming one of the biggest young stars in basketball. While young stars were rising, Shaquille O'Neal became the most dominant player in the league. Shaq was big, strong, and impossible to stop near the basket. When he joined the Lakers in 1996, the team became a contender. By the end of the 90s, Shaq looked like the best player in basketball. Teams had no answer for him physically. He became the main force that would lead the NBA into the 2000s. By the year 2000, the NBA was entering a new era. Jordan was gone, the Bulls were gone, the old stars were aging, but new ones were ready. Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and Vince Carter. These players were about to take over. The talent was still there. But even with all that talent, a lot of fans still felt the same way. The NBA just didn't feel the same without Michael Jordan. The league was moving forward, but the golden era had ended, and the next era would look very different. From 2000 to 2002, the Lakers became the most dominant team in basketball. They won 3 championships in a row. 2000, 2001, and 2002. Shaq was the most unstoppable player in the league. He was too big and too strong for defenders. Teams tried double teams, triple teams, and fouling him hard, but nothing really worked. In the 2000 finals against the Pacers, Shaq averaged great numbers and dominated the series. He won Finals MVP. Kobe was younger, but improving fast. He became the best perimeter player in the league. Shaq controlled the paint, and Kobe controlled the perimeter. Together, they were nearly impossible to beat. The 2001 Lakers were especially dominant. They went 15-1 in the playoffs, one of the best playoff runs ever. They beat teams like the Spurs and Kings easily. By 2002, they won their third straight title against the New Jersey Nets. The Lakers had become the new dynasty. Even while they were winning, problems were building. Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal were very different personalities. Shaq liked to joke around and take things easy during the regular season. Kobe was intense and obsessed with improvement. Kobe wanted to prove he was the best player. Shaq believed the team ran through him. They both wanted to be the leader. The tension started building early in the three-peat years. Sometimes Kobe felt Shaq didn't work hard enough. Shaq sometimes felt Kobe shot too much and tried to take over games. There were public comments in the media, small shots back and forth. Phil Jackson often had to keep the team together. Even though they kept winning, the relationship was never stable. Everyone knew it might eventually fall apart, but during the early 2000s, they were still good enough to dominate anyway. The early 2000s competition was a huge step down from the 90s, but still pretty good. Kings pushed the Lakers to the limit in 2002. That series went 7 games and could have gone either way. The San Antonio Spurs had a young Tim Duncan and David Robinson who was past his prime and stayed near the top every year. The Philadelphia 76ers reached the finals in 2001 behind Allen Iverson. The Portland Trailblazers had a solid roster in the early part of the decade. The New York Knicks were still competitive. The Indiana Pacers remained strong, and the league had talent everywhere, but the style of play was slower and more methodical than the 90s. Scores were lower. Some fans loved it, and others thought it was hard to watch. Then something nobody expected happened again. Michael Jordan came back. In 2001, Jordan returned to the NBA at 38 years old, this time with the Washington Wizards. It obviously wasn't the same as before. Jordan was older, slower, and he didn't have the same explosiveness, but the attention came right back. Arenas sold out when he visited, and fans still came just to see him play. For a moment, it felt like the old days again. Jordan still had big games. He scored 51 points in one game in 2001. He had several 40-point games, even in his late 30s. But the Wizards weren't contenders. They missed the playoffs both seasons he played. Then Jordan retired for the final time in 2003. This time, it really felt permanent. The Jordan era was officially over. Right as Jordan left for good, a new name took the spotlight: LeBron James. Before he even played an NBA game, LeBron was already famous. He was on magazine covers in high school, and games were shown on national TV. People called him the Chosen One. The hype was insane. In the 2003 draft, LeBron was picked number 1 overall by the Cleveland Cavaliers. From day one, he became one of the biggest names in sports. Fans wanted to see if he could live up to the hype. He had size, speed, passing ability, and scoring ability. He looked like a future superstar immediately. The NBA finally had a new face to build around. Jordan had defined the 90s, Shaq and Kobe defined the early 2000s. Now the league was preparing for the next era, the LeBron era, and the NBA was about to change again. LeBron won Rookie of the Year in 2004. By 2005 and 2006, he was already putting up fantastic numbers. He took the Cleveland Cavaliers from one of the worst teams in the league into the playoffs. By 2006, he had already become one of the biggest stars in sports, and the NBA started building the league around him. In 2007, LeBron reached the NBA Finals for the first time. He was only 22 years old. Cleveland beat Detroit in the Eastern Conference Finals, including one of LeBron's greatest performances where he scored 48 points and carried the team to a win. It looked like the arrival of a new king, but the finals went badly. The Cavaliers faced the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs had Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili. They were experienced, disciplined, and well coached. The Spurs swept the series 4-0. LeBron struggled in the finals. His shooting percentage was low. For the first time, people started questioning him. He made the finals, but he didn't look dominant. Some critics said he wasn't ready, others said he needed a better team, but the results stayed the same. LeBron reached the biggest stage and lost badly. That series became the first real blemish on his career. People started comparing him to Jordan. Jordan had never lost a final series. LeBron was already 0-1. And the talk started early. When people look back at the 2007 finals, a lot of the story gets told like LeBron carried a weak team and had no help. But the Cavaliers weren't a terrible team. They were built to win in a specific way. Defense first, slow pace, and half-court offense. They were designed to support LeBron and make deep playoff runs, and that system worked well enough to get them to the finals. The 2007 Cavaliers had a strong defensive core. They weren't loaded with superstars, but they had experienced players who understood their roles. Zydrunas Ilgauskas was a reliable scoring center. He could shoot from mid-range and score in the post. He gave Cleveland size inside. Drew Gooden provided rebounding and inside scoring. Anderson Varejao brought energy and defense off the bench. Larry Hughes was supposed to be the second scorer. Sasha Pavlovich provided shooting and spacing. Damon Jones and Daniel Gibson could hit outside shots. Eric Snow ran the offense and played tough defense. The team had size, they had defense, they had veteran players, and they had depth. One reason Cleveland made the finals was their defense. They slowed games down, they forced tough shots, and they controlled the pace. In the Eastern Conference playoffs, they held teams to low scores. They beat the Detroit Pistons, a championship-level team that had dominated the East for years. That wasn't an accident. Cleveland played disciplined basketball. They executed their system. They were built to grind out wins. But the truth is, LeBron struggled badly in the 2007 finals. He averaged around 22 points per game, which was far below what he had done in the playoffs. His shooting was poor. He shot under 40% from the field. He turned the ball over often. He had trouble finishing at the rim against San Antonio's defense, and he looked uncomfortable at times. Instead of taking over games like he did against Detroit, he struggled to find rhythm. The Spurs didn't just beat Cleveland, they controlled the entire series. Cleveland were swept 4-0, and LeBron never had a truly dominant game in that finals. During this time, the NBA had a lack of strong teams and stars. There wasn't really a dominant dynasty like the Bulls or Lakers before. Different teams won championships and different stars took turns at the top. The San Antonio Spurs were the most consistent team of the era. They won championships in 2003, 2005, and 2007. Tim Duncan became one of the greatest players ever. The Spurs played slow and disciplined basketball, strong defense, and smart offense. They weren't flashy, but they won. After Shaq left the Lakers in 2004, Kobe Bryant became the face of the franchise. For a few years, the Lakers struggled, but Kobe became the biggest individual star in the league. He scored 81 points in a game in 2006, one of the greatest scoring performances ever. By 2008 and 2009, the Lakers were back on top. Kobe led the team to the finals in 2008, then won championships in 2009 and 2010. Kobe became the closest thing the league had to Michael Jordan. He had the style, the competitiveness, and the scoring ability. Many fans saw Kobe as the true face of the NBA during this time. By the late 2000s, the NBA still had big stars. Kobe Bryant was winning championships. LeBron James was one of the best players in the league. Teams like the Lakers, Celtics, and Spurs were still pretty strong. But compared to the 80s and 90s, something felt different. The league didn't feel as intense. Rivalries weren't as strong. Players switched teams more often, and the regular season started feeling less important. The NBA was still popular, but it didn't feel as raw or competitive as before. Then in 2010, one moment changed the league forever.
The answer to the question everybody wants to know. LeBron, what's your decision?
In the summer of 2010, LeBron James became a free agent. Everyone knew he might leave Cleveland, but nobody expected what happened next. LeBron announced his decision on a live TV special called The Decision. Millions of people watched, and then he said the words that shocked the basketball world.
In this fall, man, it's very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
He was going to the Miami Heat. Not alone. He joined Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. 3 superstar players on one team, right in their primes. It felt different than anything before. Stars had teamed up in the past, but usually through trades or late in their careers. This was planned. 3 elite players choosing to team up together to dominate the league. Fans immediately reacted, and a lot of the reaction was negative. The Miami Heat became the first true modern super team. 3 all-NBA level players, 3 franchise leaders, 3 players who could have led their own teams all on one roster. LeBron was the best player in the world, Wade had already won a championship, and Bosh was one of the best big men in the league. On paper, it looked unfair. The Heat instantly became the favorites to win every year. Some fans felt like competition was being bypassed. Instead of beating the best teams, stars were joining each other, and this is something that would change the league forever. LeBron became the most hated player in the league overnight. Fans in Cleveland burned jerseys, crowds booed him in every arena, and people felt like he took the easy way out. Instead of building a champion in Cleveland, he joined other stars to guarantee a chance at winning. Even other players criticized the move. It felt like something had changed, not just with LeBron, with the entire league. After Miami formed their super team, other teams started copying the idea. Stars began looking for ways to join forces. Players started planning moves together. Free agency became about forming groups instead of building teams slowly. Instead of teams growing naturally through drafts and trades, players started choosing their own destinations. The balance of the league started changing. Small market teams had a harder time keeping stars. Big cities became more attractive. The idea of long-term loyalty started fading. In earlier eras, rivalries lasted for years. Celtics versus Lakers, Bulls versus Pistons, and Knicks versus Bulls. Teams stayed together long enough for real hatred to build, but with players moving more often, rivalries became temporary. Teams changed too quickly. Stars switched jerseys too often. Fans had less time to connect with teams. The emotional investment started fading. Another change started becoming obvious. The regular season didn't feel as meaningful. Superstars often knew they would make the playoffs easily. Some games felt like warm-ups instead of real battles. Players started resting more, and intensity dropped compared to earlier eras. LeBron's move to Miami didn't ruin the NBA overnight. The league still had great players, great teams, and great moments, but it marked a turning point. It changed how stars thought about winning. It changed how teams were built. It started a trend that would shape the NBA for the next decade. The super team era had officially begun, and over time, it would change the league in ways a lot of fans didn't like. After LeBron joined the Miami Heat in 2010, the pressure was massive. He didn't just change teams, he formed a super team with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, 3 stars in their prime. From the moment they teamed up, the expectation was simple: win championships, nothing less. When the Heat had their opening event, LeBron even said the team might win, quote, not 1, not 2, not 3 championships. That made expectations even bigger. Fans believed Miami should dominate the league. So when the Heat reached the 2011 finals in their first season together, it felt like the plan was working. But what happened next became one of the biggest failures in NBA history. The Miami Heat faced the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas had a good team led by Dirk Nowitzki. They had veterans like Jason Kidd, Jason Terry, and Tyson Chandler. They were experienced. They played smart basketball. But on paper, Miami had more talent. Most people expected the Heat to win. They had 3 superstars, Dallas had 1. It looked like a mismatch. Miami took a 2-1 series lead. They looked in control. LeBron had strong games early in the series. It looked like the Heat would close it out. Then, everything changed. Over the final games of the series, LeBron struggled badly. His scoring dropped, his aggression disappeared, he passed up shots, and he looked hesitant. Sometimes he barely attacked the basket at all. The worst moment came in Game 4. LeBron scored only 8 points, which is pathetic. That's one of the lowest scoring games ever for a superstar in the finals. He played over 40 minutes and barely contributed offensively. It shocked fans. This was supposed to be the best player in the world. Instead, he looked passive. Dallas built their defense around slowing LeBron down. They forced him into half-court situations, they made him shoot jump shots, and they cut off driving lanes. But more than anything, LeBron looked unsure of himself. Dwayne Wade often looked like the best player in Miami. Chris Bosh had strong games, but LeBron, the league's biggest star, struggled. Dallas won 3 straight games, and the Mavericks won the series 4-2. Miami lost. LeBron averaged about 17.8 points per game in the finals. That was far below his usual production. His scoring dropped dramatically compared to the regular season and earlier playoff rounds. For the best player in the world, it was disgraceful. After the finals, the criticism was non-stop. Fans said LeBron disappeared when it mattered most. Analysts questioned his mentality. Some said he didn't have the killer instinct. Others said he wasn't built for pressure. The comparison to Michael Jordan got worse. Jordan never lost in the finals. Jordan never had a series where he looked passive. LeBron now had 2 finals losses, 2007 and 2011. But 2011 was worse. In 2007, he was young and the team was weaker. In 2011, he had a super team and still lost. The 2011 finals became the biggest stain on LeBron's career. Even years later, people still bring it up because it wasn't just a loss, it was a collapse. He had the talent advantage, he had the better roster, he had the spotlight, and he didn't deliver. For many fans, that series permanently changed how they saw LeBron. He was still great and still one of the best ever, but the idea that he could be greater than Jordan took a major hit because the best players don't disappear in the finals. And in 2011, LeBron did. That series would follow him for the rest of his career. And after the 2011 finals collapse, the pressure on LeBron was massive. People questioned everything about him, his leadership, his confidence, and his ability to win. The 2012 season felt like a must-win year. If LeBron lost again, the criticism would get even worse. And early in the playoffs, it looked like disaster might happen again. In the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals, the Heat faced the Boston Celtics. Boston had veterans like Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Rajon Rondo. Miami fell behind in the series. If they lost, the super team experiment would have looked like a failure. Then came Game 6 in Boston. LeBron played one of the best games of his career. He scored 45 points. He looked calm and focused the entire night. Miami won the game. Then they won Game 7 at home. The Heat reached the finals again. That series saved the season. In the finals, Miami faced the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder had young stars, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. They were talented and fast, but they were young. None of their main players had reached their prime yet. The team didn't have any finals experience. Miami had 3 veteran stars, more playoff experience, more pressure, and more expectations. On paper, Miami had the advantage. This time, LeBron didn't disappear. He played strong throughout the series. He scored consistently, he rebounded, and he passed well. He controlled the games. Miami won the series 4-1. LeBron won his first championship. He also won Finals MVP. Winning helped his reputation, but some criticism stayed. Some fans pointed out Miami was a super team, 3 stars in their prime. Others pointed out that the Thunder were still developing. Durant was only 23. Westbrook was also only 23, and Harden was 22. They hadn't reached their peak yet. Still, LeBron had his championship. After 2012, nobody could say he never won, but the pressure didn't go away, because now, people expected more. In 2013, Miami was even stronger. They went on a 27-game winning streak, one of the longest ever. LeBron had one of the best seasons of his career. The Heat reached the finals again. This time, they faced the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs had Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili. The series was close, back and forth, then came Game 6, and that game nearly changed everything. Late in Game 6, the Spurs were ahead. Only seconds remained. Fans were already leaving the arena. Security was preparing for a Spurs championship celebration. It looked over. Miami was about to lose the series. LeBron had struggled earlier in the game. Another finals loss would have hurt his legacy badly. Then everything changed. With seconds left, Chris Bosh grabbed an offensive rebound and passed the ball out to Ray Allen. Allen stepped back behind the three-point line and hit the shot. Tie game, Miami survived. That shot became one of the most famous plays in NBA history. If Ray Allen misses that shot, the Spurs win the championship, and LeBron falls to 1-3 in the finals. Instead, the series went to Game 7. In Game 7, Miami won a close game. LeBron played well and hit a key jump shot late in the game. The Heat won the championship. LeBron had his second title. But many fans never forgot Game 6 because without Ray Allen's shot, the outcome might have been very different. Ray Allen's shot became one of the most important moments in LeBron's career. Without it, Miami loses in 2013. LeBron has another finals loss. The super team era looks even weaker. Instead, LeBron had back-to-back championships, 2 finals MVP, and a stronger legacy. But a lot of fans still remember one thing: LeBron didn't steal Game 6. Ray Allen saved the season, and possibly saved LeBron's legacy. By 2014, the Miami Heat had been to 4 straight finals. They won in 2012 and 2013. In the 2014 finals, Miami faced the San Antonio Spurs again. This time, the Spurs dominated. San Antonio played nearly perfect basketball, fast ball movement, great shooting, and strong defense. Miami couldn't keep up. The Spurs won the series 4-1. Many of the games weren't even close. It felt like Miami got exposed. The super team looked finished, and LeBron lost another finals. His record dropped to 2-3 in the finals. Right after the loss, LeBron made another huge move. In the summer of 2014, he left Miami and went back to Cleveland. Once again, he changed teams in free agency. Once again, he reshaped the league. This time, Cleveland already had young stars, Kyrie Irving and Andrew Wiggins, who would soon be traded. Then Cleveland traded for Kevin Love. Just like that, another super team formed. LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love. 3 all-star players on one roster. It looked like another attempt to stack the odds. LeBron said he wanted to bring a championship to Cleveland, but many fans saw the same pattern. When things got hard, he moved to another team. While LeBron built another super team in Cleveland, a new team was rising in the West, the Golden State Warriors. They had drafted their core players, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. They played fast and they shot more threes than any team before them. Their offense looked completely different from older teams. By 2015, they became champions, and Stephen Curry became the biggest new star in the league. The NBA started shifting toward three-point shooting and spacing. The Warriors were leading that change. From 2015 to 2018, the NBA Finals became almost predictable: Cleveland versus Golden State. Every year, LeBron reached the finals again and again, but beating the Warriors was a different challenge. In 2015, Cleveland lost the finals. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love were injured. Golden State won the series. LeBron put up big numbers, but it wasn't enough. In 2016, Cleveland came back and won. They came back from a 3-1 deficit. LeBron had one of the biggest blocks in finals history. Cleveland won the championship. It was one of the biggest moments of his career. But that moment didn't last long, because the league changed again. In 2016, something happened that shocked the league. Kevin Durant joined the Golden State Warriors. Durant had just lost to the Warriors in the conference finals. Then he joined them. The Warriors already had Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. Now they added Durant, another MVP level player. It became one of the most stacked teams ever. Many fans felt the league lost balance overnight. Golden State became overwhelmingly favorites, and they proved it. They won the championship in 2017 and 2018. Cleveland couldn't compete with that level of talent. LeBron reached the finals again and lost again. By this point, the NBA looked completely different than earlier eras. More stars teaming up and more stacked rosters. The idea of building teams slowly through drafts and development was dead. Instead, stars tried to join forces, and a lot of people traced that change back to one moment: LeBron joining Miami in 2010. That move showed superstars they could team up in their prime to chase championships. After that, Miami formed a super team, Cleveland formed a super team, then Golden State formed a super team. The pattern kept repeating. Before the super team era, championships usually came from teams built over time. Draft picks developed together, rivalries formed over years, and teams earned their place at the top. But in the 2010s, things started feeling different. Sometimes the best teams looked decided before the season even started. Some fans felt the competition became predictable. Instead of wondering who might win, people expected the same teams every year. For many fans, Kevin Durant joining the Warriors felt like the breaking point. One of the best players in the world joining an already dominant team. It felt unfair and unbalanced, and to a lot of fans, it felt like basketball had lost something, because the path to winning didn't always look like competition anymore. It looked like alliances, and that shift started years early when LeBron chose Miami and changed the NBA forever. In 2019, the NBA had one last moment that felt real. The Toronto Raptors versus the Golden State Warriors. Kawhi Leonard carried Toronto throughout the playoffs. He played elite defense, he scored in big moments, he stayed calm under pressure, and he didn't form a super team. Toronto built a tough team and Kawhi pushed them over the top. They beat Golden State in 6 games. For a lot of fans, that finals felt old school. One superstar leading a real team. Hard defense and big moments. No shortcuts. It felt like basketball still meant something. After Kawhi's run in 2019, things started changing fast. In the 2020s, a lot of fans started losing interest. TV viewership dropped compared to earlier decades, fewer people watched games, and highlights became more popular than actual games. The regular season was now meaningless. Players rested more. One of the biggest problems became how often stars didn't play. In earlier eras, the best players were on the court almost every night. Jordan played full seasons, Kobe played through injuries, and the players wanted to compete. In the 2020s, fans started hearing the same phrase constantly: load management. Players sat out games to stay fresh. Back-to-backs got skipped. Minor injuries meant weeks off. Sometimes fans bought expensive tickets and the biggest stars didn't even play. That hurt trust. Fans stopped feeling like regular season games mattered, and if the players didn't treat games as important, fans didn't either. Jordan was a global superstar. So was Kobe. Even early LeBron was a world-renowned superstar, but newer stars didn't feel the same. There were good players like Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, Giannis, Jokic, and Luka Doncic, but fewer players that felt must-watch. In earlier eras, basketball looked like everything to the players. Jordan treated every game like war. Kobe trained non-stop. Bird and Magic hated losing. Players talked about championships more than anything. In the 2020s, it started feeling different. A lot of players looked more focused on contracts, brands, and social media than the actual games. You saw more talk about shoe deals and podcasts than rivalries and championships. Players became friends with opponents instead of enemies. After games, players laughed together and swapped jerseys. Older fans noticed it right away. The edge felt gone. It didn't feel like life or death competition anymore. It felt like co-workers playing a game. Another major change was how the game was officiated. The NBA introduced rules that made offense easier and defense harder. Defenders couldn't hand-check like before. Physical contact got called as fouls more often. Hard playoff-style defense became rare. In older eras, players fought through contact. Now, small bumps led to whistles. Scoring went up, but physical competition went down. For many fans, the game started looking soft compared to earlier decades. Flopping became a big part of the modern game. Players exaggerated contact trying to draw fouls. Instead of finishing through contact, players looked for whistles. And no player got more attention for this than LeBron James. Early in his career, LeBron was known for power and athleticism. He attacked the basket and finished through defenders. But as he got older, fans started noticing more flopping, head snaps, and falling after light contact. Complaining to referees, and clips of LeBron exaggerating contact spread everywhere online. It frustrated fans. One of the biggest and strongest players in NBA history acting like he got hit harder than he did. It became a symbol of the modern game. Not toughness, not fighting through contact, but selling calls. And a lot of fans hated it. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander adopted this in his game, literally throwing himself to the floor when no one touched him just to go to the free throw line. And the worst part is, the NBA allowed it. The style of basketball also changed dramatically. Three-point shooting took over the league. Teams built offenses around spacing and outside shooting. Big men started playing on the perimeter, mid-range shots disappeared, and post play vanished. A lot of teams started looking the same. Pick and roll, kick out, three-point shot, over and over. Some games had over 80 or 90 three-point attempts combined. The variety of playstyles faded. Earlier eras had post players, slashers, mid-range shooters, different systems, and different identities. In the 2020s, many games started blending together. More than anything, what changed in the 2020s was how the NBA felt. Earlier eras felt serious. Everything looked sharper. Teams had identities. When you turned on a game, you knew exactly who was playing just by looking at the court or uniforms. The Celtics looked like the Celtics, the Lakers looked like the Lakers, the Bulls looked like the Bulls. The logos stayed the same for decades, the jerseys stayed mostly the same. Those designs became a part of basketball history. Kids recognized them instantly. The league looked clean and professional. It felt permanent. In the modern NBA, that feeling started disappearing. Teams constantly changed uniforms every season. Alternate jerseys, city jerseys, and special editions. Some teams wear 4 or 5 different uniforms in a single season. Sometimes teams don't even wear their real colors. The Lakers wear yellow instead of gold. The Bucks wear gray. The Warriors wear black. Fans turn on games and sometimes can't even tell who's playing at first. The connection between teams and their history started fading. Jerseys used to mean something. Now they feel temporary, like marketing experiments. Older NBA logos had personality. They felt unique and connected to the teams. The Phoenix Suns Sunburst logo was bold and unique. You could spot it from across the room. The Houston Rockets red and yellow rocket logo had a clear identity. It looked aggressive and memorable. The Seattle Supersonics Skyline logo felt tied to the city and the team's history. The Utah Jazz Purple Mountain logo had character and looked completely different from every other team. The Detroit Pistons horse logo in the late 90s had personality and felt tough. The Toronto Raptors dinosaur logo became iconic almost instantly. Kids loved it and fans still talk about it today. The Orlando Magic Star and Ball logo was simple but instantly recognizable. Every team looked different and every logo had its own identity. Modern logos often look simplified and corporate. Cleaner lines, flatter designs, and less character. Some teams redesigned logos just to look more modern, but ended up looking more generic. Instead of feeling like sports with history, some teams started looking like brands. Older NBA courts had character. Boston Garden looked different than the Forum. Chicago Stadium looked different than Madison Square Garden. Each era had its own atmosphere. Now, many courts look similar. Clean wood floors, minimal design, and digital ads everywhere. Huge sponsor logos on the court, jersey patches with company logos. The business side became more visible than ever. The game started looking like advertising with basketball in the middle. The NBA didn't fall apart all at once. It happened slowly. From the 80s and 90s to now, the league kept changing little by little until it stopped feeling like the same sport. Back then, the NBA felt real. Players stayed with teams, rivalries lasted for years, and games felt intense. Stars played almost every night, the regular season mattered, the playoffs felt like battles, and the best players wanted to beat each other, not team up together. Magic and Bird saved the league. Jordan took it to another level. The 90s felt like the peak. Every season mattered. Every finals event felt larger than life. Basketball felt like the center of sports. Then things started changing. Jordan retired. The lockout hurt the league. Super teams started forming, and LeBron's move to Miami changed how players chased championships. Then Kevin Durant joining Golden State pushed it even further. Instead of competition, it started feeling like players were stacking the odds. The rivalries faded, team loyalty faded, the regular season lost meaning. Then the 2020s made everything worse. Stars sit out games, players switched teams constantly, defense got softer, flopping became normal, and every team shoots the same threes. Logos and jerseys change every year. Nothing feels permanent, nothing feels personal. Sure, the players are talented, but the game doesn't feel alive the way it used to. The NBA used to feel like must-watch television. Now, it feels like something you can catch in highlights, and that's why so many longtime fans say the same thing now. The NBA didn't just change, it lost what made it special, and that's why the NBA will never be the same.